Hey everybody, I want to give a quick introduction. My name is Alicia Pate with Paint Range Creations and also Hustle and Burn Laser Community on Facebook. So I've got a bunch of questions out there. People know that I have two lasers. I acquired them in 2020, and so people are always asking me, can you tell me the difference between the Aeon Mira 9 and the Fender Nova 63? So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to give you an insight into the inside of the machine and also around the outside of the machine to really show you some of the differences in the features, the fit and finish, show you some key things that I really like about the machines, and then also go into some opportunities that maybe I'd like to see different, or maybe that just really are things that differentiate and distinguish each one from the other. All right, so the first machine that we're going to look at today is the Aeon Mira 9. And I want to talk about some reasons why I initially purchased this one. I really like the feature that it was what they call the desktop, which to me the desktop is the all-in-one. So everything is encompassed within this one system shell. So your chiller, your exhaust system, and your air compressor is all in one. So all you need to do is get the unit and either buy the cart from them, or you could build a cart. I took the option of building my own cart, and a lot of people are doing that. I would say you could probably spend a little under $200 to build your own cart. If you do go that route, just make sure you don't go above a certain height, because I've seen a lot of people build their carts too high. And as you see, as tall as this is, I'm 5'5", you still want to be able to reach in to your machine. If you build your cart too high, you'll be standing on a chair or a stool or a chair to get in there. So that's just one thing to think about. So let's talk about the outside of the machine. They've decided to go with a smoked colored or a darker gray colored glass. There's really no function for that. It's just the color pattern that they decided to go with. The handle on the door, a little small. I may look at upgrading this. This is a little kind of small, and if you're opening this thing about 100 times a day, it gets a little difficult to handle. Otherwise, the color pattern, as you can see, is like a black and a light kind of an almond or a dark or a gray. The unit is manufactured well. Like I said, it's all in one. You have Wi-Fi capability. I do not send my designs via Wi-Fi, but you can. That feature is there. I like this model because of the size of the bed. It's 35 by, I think it's 22, and I think the Z is like 6 or 7. I'll get the exact measurements and post those with it. I upgraded from a Glowforge Pro, and I really wanted that size of the bed. So this was nice because I knew that I had the space to put it in this corner. It was quite a significant change from a Glowforge, but I wanted to be able to do those bigger jobs. So let's go inside the machine if we can. One thing about this machine is the Aeon has cased off and closed off, I would say, some of the components in the back. And that's kind of nice if you don't want to have to worry about all of your debris or your smoke coming off your engraves or your cuts getting on your wheels or your belts. So that's what this back panel is. You can see mine's a little bit dirty, but I wanted to leave it kind of as is because I wanted you to see what it looked like when you're using it a lot. With the unit comes, this is your gantry and your laser head. And then it comes with a key so that you can open this front door to get inside the machine and clean it or remove the honeycomb tray. And we'll just show you how you do that. So you use this key that it comes with. And this flips down and you have access to the honeycomb tray. This honeycomb tray, you can either laser engrave or cut with an in or out. I always leave mine in unless I need the additional depth. You remove it just by pulling it out or sliding it back in. So one of the things that I think is a room for opportunity for this machine is that the honeycomb slides around on top of the blades in the machine. So if you're going to try to square up on something and you want to get a true 90-degree off the back or the side, do not use your honeycomb tray because it's not exactly square up in here. So if you are going to do that, you need to use 2 pieces of wood. Let me get some wood. And place those against the back and the side of your bed. That way you know that you're square on the machine in the gantry. So that's one feature that might have been a little bit nice, is so that this could be square up. Some of the other suppliers do that for you. We can remove this honeycomb, and we expose the blades, as I was talking about before. And these blades are removable, so when you need to clean the machine, you just take them out, clean those things, and then once you get all the blades out, you can vacuum out and then sponge out the debris that's at the bottom. There is a little grid system here. If you can zoom in, if you don't mind, you can see that some of your debris may get caught in there, so getting a tight vacuum to pull that out. There are additional blades that come with this machine. One of the things that I've noticed with mine is that they weren't all the same equal length, so it was kind of like a puzzle. So if you get this machine brand new, I would number your blades from 1 to N, whatever that number is, so that when you clean them and put them back in, you know what that pattern is. I failed to do that, and so I had a hard time getting mine put back in. To put the honeycomb tray back in, you just lift it and put it back in there. And you're back in business. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you on the Aeon Mira 9 is two things: how to change the lens and how to clean it. So we're going to get into the laser head, show you how you would take off the autofocus component, show you what the lens looks like, and then I'll also explain to you if you were going to go from a 2-inch to a 4-inch lens, what you would need to do that. That's somewhat common if you want to do some engraves in a bowl, or you want to cut 1/2-inch wood. You really want to upgrade to that 4-inch lens. So once you get to be a little bit more advanced from the basic things, that's definitely something you're going to want to do. So when you get the machine, it'll come with a bunch of Allen wrenches. So you'll take one of your Allen wrenches and you'll take off this front piece, which is the autofocus pin. The autofocus pin component is on the front of your lens. So we have 2 screws here. And now our autofocus pin component comes off, and that enables us to remove the lens component. So the lens component has 3 screws in it, and this is what holds the 2-inch lens or any of the optics you buy to do your work. It holds it down with those 3 screws. So then you would just take, if you wanted to swap out this lens with either a new one or a different size one, you would take a smaller Allen wrench, remove those screws, put your optics in, and then screw those back. I recommend taking your time when you do this so you don't break the glass, and then you can screw these. Don't do one extremely tight and then the others all tight. Just do them a little bit at a time so you get even tightening and even flatness. That way you have a great directional the way the lens is, the array is going. So to put this back, just let it rest there, and we would do the same process if we were cleaning. Go ahead and put the autofocus component over. If you notice here, I have a X-Acto or like a cutting, some piece of paper or something holding underneath the lens. That's because I don't want to drop any of these screws. If I did, they would go down through the honeycomb tray and you'd be fishing. And you'd be okay unless it went in one of those small grids in the bottom. So it's always a good practice to do that. So then we replace both of our screws. We make sure the positioning of this is tight and all the way to the left back. And that's how you would clean your lens or replace your lens with a different optic. In order to clean the mirror, there are 2 light screws up here, small screws, and then it looks like a boomerang that holds it in. You would remove that to replace that. So that's basically a close-up look at how we change our lens. I want to talk about next the autofocus feature. The way the autofocus works on the Mira 9, it's, imagine a garage. So if you have a garage floor and you raise the garage floor bed, once it hits this piece of component, this brass or copper looking item, and it knows, oh, I hit some surface, then it goes back down to the ground. So that's how it works. So it's a single bed movement up and down to detect the location, and then it goes down once it has the predetermined depth of what it needs for a 2-inch piece of material, or for a 2-inch lens. So let's talk about the exhaust system on the Mira 9. The exhaust system is set up that you have a control button on the right side of the machine, and I'll show you that when we flip to the exterior part. And the vent pool is in the back of the machine. It's almost flat at the very top. So you can see I have a ton of smudge marks from my prior cuttings and jobs, and then that's where it pulls it out. There's a fan in the back of this unit that comes standard and integrated with the machine, and that's what it used. Once you turn that on the side, it'll vent out through a 6-inch tube in the back. There have been some people that have added an additional inline fan. I guess check with your local sales team in your country to see if that is a necessity or required. When I bought mine, I did not get an additional inline fan. I think some people are doing it now. I have found myself that my machine is functioning quite well without it, but there's some discussion on some websites that some people have found some benefit to do that. But to turn the fan on, it's on the side. You can hear it, it's kicked on, and it just sucks out. When we do a job, a laser or a cut, there is also an integrated air filter system, or I guess it's like an air compressor system that has come with the machine, and it gets fed through a tube which you can't see, and it's in here, and it shoots out through the bottom, and that helps with cutting and cleaning debris off. I would highly recommend, though, aftermarket installing an additional air compressor. Many of us who are in the laser industry have done that and found that it's very beneficial, and you get cleaner engraves, cleaner cuts, and the performance is increased quite significantly when you do that. So what you're looking at now is the control panel on the actual machine itself, which this is my first commercial laser, so this is the only thing I'm used to. But to go in to do some of the basic things, the way that the control panel is set up, you can move the gantry over with the left to the right button. If you want to raise the bed, you go into the ZU button, and then you can hit the left and right, and it'll control the bed up and down. You can see I wrote U and D for up and down just because when I was new I messed it up a couple times. So that's how you move the gantry around. Alright, we're going to switch over here and take a view of the right side of the machine, and I'll just go through some of the components and parts over here to give you a little bit of intro of what you're seeing. This is the emergency stop and also the start button. So if we press this button, it'll turn it off. And to turn it on is you turn it and twist it. So it's kind of nice because if you have little kids in the house, they're probably not going to turn it on. So that's a nice feature. I like that. It's one of the pluses on this machine is if you have little kids, at least the on button is child-proof. They'll definitely be able to turn it off if they came around here. You have a key, so you can lock this thing, the power on and off. The next thing down is your blower switch. You can hear it turn on. That's your exhaust fan. So if you were going to run this and add additional inline fan, you would probably want to get one that you could have a button up here so it's easily turnable. Turn the fan off. The next thing is a U-disc. I don't use this. Looks like a USB connection. And then the bottom one is a USB connection. I use that solely for my jobs. You can, as I told you before, you can use the Wi-Fi, or you can use the USB. I like running with USB because I feel like it's more reliable and I don't want to have to worry about a job stop if my some glitch in the house. As we move over, you're going to see I've added on an additional air compressor. My first couple of months I had my machine, I ran without it. Started doing some research and found this is really the way to go. If you want clean, deeper cuts, you can actually speed up your speed on your cut and then much faster, better quality. Mine grays are a lot cleaner. So this is the way to go. My air compressor is in the garage, and then I run a line through my window. I'm actually using one air compressor for 2 machines. So I have a Y splitter, and then this is the line that comes into the Mira. You really want some type of water separator regulator. I'm in Houston, Texas, so I got 2. I felt this was best for me, and when it's summertime, I'm filling up one and flowing over into the other. And then I can easily bleed it off while the job is running. You need a regulator so you can control what's coming off the air compressor. Then you got your line that's starting to go into the machine. I opted to put an additional switch so I can control how much, even though I have a regulator here, I wanted to hand control how much was going to the nozzle. You can hear it coming on through there. If we put our hand underneath it, you can feel it. So this is kind of a nice add to do. For me, I drilled a hole in the machine, and then I ran it through. I disconnected the line that came with it originally, which is the internal air compressor line, and then I just plugged mine right in. If I wanted to go back to the regular stock version, I could easily do that. All I would have to do was patch this little hole. So that was a real easy fit. Don't be overwhelmed by adding one of these. This is super simple, and there's lots of direction out there. I actually added on, this is a 3D printed tube cover. There's a gentleman on the Aeon laser site that makes these. For me, it was very beneficial because the original one came out to about here, I think. So this was actually a nice space saver that I added. And so let's go around to the back. Let me move my camera here, show you what you're looking at. The back of the machine primarily is going to be your chiller and your exhaust system or your vent system. I'll turn this a little bit. Like I said before, it comes with a 6-inch hose, and you'll get a stock hose that will come with it. It's basically like what you would have for your dryer, so I recommend upgrading. The tube I have on here now is really overkill. I think this was like a $250 tube. That wasn't worth it, but if you feel so desirable and want to spend that much, then get on it. But there are some other options out there. I've seen a lot of people get the clear tube, which I think is kind of nice, because then you got a visual to see if your tube is dirty, and you can just kind of run a big pipe cleaner through it like you would a chimney. So that's what's on the right side, is your exhaust system and your air system. On the left side, you're looking at your chiller. It's an integrated chiller, just like the integrated exhaust system, which is nice because the all-in-one, as I said, you can see everything's fitting on this cart. The chiller is I think it's called a CS5000. And this string right here is a piece of floss. I have a antimicrobial coil that is in here, and so that hopefully keeps some of the algae down. So this chiller has run well, and all in one. So that's the back and the right side of the machine. So the next thing I want to show you on the Mira 9 is how you would do an autofocus. And I'll give you one word of caution with this. The way this design is set up, it's got room for improvement. And I guess about my 1 month in, this pin right here, which is actually the autofocus pin, got caught on a piece of wood, and my wood drug across the laser bed, and it got jammed up, and actually the laser head got out of alignment. So after that, I removed the autofocus pin, and I don't use the autofocus feature. I put the pin back on there so I can demonstrate this for you guys. So I'm going to show you how an autofocus would actually take place, and then I'm going to show you how you can do a manual focus, which is what most of us do when we've been using these for so long. So I want to show you what both of that looks like. So I placed a piece of acacia wood in here, and I've probably got about 1 inch. That's what it looks like to me, between the cone and the top of the surface. So to do the autofocus, you go into your Ruida controller panel, and then you move down about 8 items to where it says autofocus. When I push this button, as I told you before, it's like if the garage floor came up to hit a stick, and that's when it knows where to stop, and then it goes right down. So that's what you're going to see happen right now. And so what is actually happening is that piece of wood, bumps up to that pin has some flex in it. And when that flex goes up far enough, there's a sensor in there and it tells it that's the top, that's enough. And so then the bed will lower back down to where it knows is the predefined autofocus width of where you need to be between your material and a 2-inch lens. So if we did the autofocus, we would now be ready to go ahead and start our job. What I use is this piece of material here. This came with the machine, and where you see the F, that's where I put my F for primary focus for a 2-inch lens. It's 9 millimeters. And so if I run it under here, I should be in that spot. So I'm like about 8. I like to do my focus at 9, so it's pretty darn close. It's probably at a 7, the autofocus was. So we're close enough to see that that's good for us. So again, you have the option to run with the autofocus or not. If you don't want it, you can just back this pin out. I'm going to lower the bed. You can back this pin out. There's a small Allen wrench here. You can unloosen it and this pin comes right off and you're good to go. But that's how the feature works. Okay, so now we're going to look at the Fender laser, the Fender Nova 63. So let's look at the outside and the front first off. They decided to go with a translucent clear tempered glass on the top, which I really like because I'm getting a little older, so I can see through that better with my eyes. I really do like the clear better. The color pattern that they went with was the white and then the blue. If we open it up, we've got a nice handle. I like the way that this handle is. It's bigger. I can actually fit my whole hand around it. Lift it up about 45 degrees and it goes up. The mechanism of these hinges are built like some of the newer model car hoods. You know how you lift it up and when you get about 45 degrees it goes all the way up. Kind of like that. It's a small feature, not a big deal, but it's just a nice thing to have. Prevents you from that thing ever falling down on your head or bonking you a little bit. So if we look in this machine, one of the bigger differences between it over the Mira 9 is that it's an open concept system. So you don't see those barrier walls that prevent you from seeing like the wheels and the belts in the back. Just a personal preference. I mean, you know, it's probably easier to clean it with the walls, but if you're going to do any maintenance or changing out of belts, this may be easier to get in. This is a significantly larger machine. There is a 35 Fender Nova 35 that's comparable and compatible with the Mira 9 as far as space and size. So this is a larger machine, but the way it's designed and built is the same concept. So let's talk about some features that are a little bit different about it. One of them, the big differences is the laser head and the way it's designed. So what we're looking at now is the laser head design. It's a little bit different concept. There's some things that I like a little bit better about it over the Mira 9. The biggest one is the changeability of it. It's the interoperability feature of it to be able to go from a 2-inch to a 4-inch lens. And I'm going to show you how I do that. And again, the reason why I often change that out is if I have some type of tray or bowl, I'll get one to show you. If I have something like this and it's got this lip, I really want to be able to get inside here but still have the right distance between the material and the lens. So I may opt for a 3 or a 4-inch lens to put on here so that I can get over this and engrave to the maximal area. So in order to do that on this machine, what you need to do is you need to take the airline off. The airline on this machine is different, whereas that one was built into the nozzle head. And then all I have to do is undo this big copper looking screw here, and then that head comes off. So this is the 2-inch head. And then I purchased the 4-inch head, which I highly recommend you buying with your machine. And then all you got to do is slip that in and tighten the screw and put the air nozzle tube back in, and that's it. So the interchangeability on the laser head from the 2 to the 4, or you can also get the HD lens, I believe it is, for doing, I think it's for maybe for like photos, etc. It's very quick and easy. I like that about it. Another big difference about this laser head is how you can clean the lens. Let me get my little tray for the bottom. Again, recommend always having a tray underneath your work area in case you drop something. Whereas the Mira has screws and washers that hold some things together. Fender has gone a different route. So you would undo this, and now you can see your lens. And what they've done is they have, it's a key jig, right? So the smaller one is the one for the optics, and the larger one is the one for our mirrors. So I don't have to use an Allen wrench to take this out. I just put this keyed piece of metal in here and I start rotating it out. So there's less room for error for me to drop screws. I can get it tight without having to do two at this, one and then another. So I have one circle that tightens it and holds it down. I like that. It's just easier to do. So then you go after you clean, you would take that off to get that optic out, clean that lens, stick it back in, make sure you got it the right way. Put the cone back on, and then we're going to go ahead and change back to that 2-inch because that's what I need to be using shortly. And now we're back in business. It also comes stock with this engraving cone. I have not used this yet. I probably need to start using this and do some test runs with it to see what kind of benefit I get out of it. But that's the way the laser head setup is here. Again, easier to change out quicker and less room for error with the key lens. So next, let me show you what the exhaust system looks like in the Fender. They do not have it in the top back of the laser bed. They decided to place it in the bottom center. So I'm going to lower the bed and show you the location of it. And the nice thing about this design is it pulls the smoke down through the honeycomb tray and then through the back. It doesn't accumulate smoke on the top. So just a different design. I feel like I probably have less smoke on the top of my work area, and that's kind of the route they decided to go. Let's talk about interior lighting. The lighting on the Fender is probably a little bit brighter, wider LED. I have the 63, so I'm not sure if they put more lights on my machine compared to the 35, but it does seem brighter, more lumens in this one. I don't know if it's the white paint or not. I do like that it's brighter and that I can see over into that mirror right there. It's a little bit more visibility in there, and that's probably just because they have that open concept. You can see all the rails, you can get to everything. That side panel over there opens up, and so does the one on the Aeon as well. So you can get to each of those. So that's one thing I didn't go into detail over there. But each of these have side panels that come off, so you can easily get to the components on the side. The next thing I'm going to go over is the autofocus feature on this machine. And I'm going to raise the bed up. If you notice while I raise the bed up, there is a piece of, well, it's not a piece, a black component right here, and there's one exactly the same on the other side. And that's actually infrared radar that's going there. It's infrared ray, I guess, not a radar. Anyway, so there's a beam that's going across, and I like analogies, so I'm going to use the same old analogy that I had before with the garage door. So we talked about the other one being the garage floor comes up and it hits a stick, and the stick, let's call it a broom, and the stick says, can't come up anymore, and so it goes back down. Well, the way this one works is you don't have that pin on your laser head, but what you do have is you have that beam that's going across. And if I stick a piece of equipment, let's just use that same old cutting board. So I need to stick that cutting board in the back across where that beam is, because that's where I'm going to do my autofocus. And then I go into my controller as I did on the same other one. And I'm going to hit autofocus, and what's going to happen is that piece of wood is going to raise up from the bed, and once that wood breaks that beam line, it's going to know, hey, you've hit you've hit your max. Just like if you have in your garage door opener where you have that beam that goes across, if you have a cat or a dog that runs across it and it stops, same concept there. That's how this has been designed. So let me show you how that works. So now we know the top of our material. Then we can move it anywhere we want. And we've got optimal 2-inch lens focus height with our material. That's how the autofocus works on this machine. It's pretty nice. One thing that I like about it is you don't have that pin to worry about. So the lowest thing that I have here when I'm actually doing a job is actually the cone. There's nothing that's below the cone. Let's take a look at the controller that's on the Fender. It's also a Ruida controller. Very similar navigation. The layout may be a little bit different, and it's branded towards this brand. There is one difference though that it's kind of nice, is that there is actually a bed up and down arrow instead of having to go into the menu and go into a second menu feature. You can actually just lower it and raise it from here. Why I think that's nice, especially for when I've got a job that's reaching away across the bed, is that I can have my 2 fingers on that up and down and get the autofocus without having to go look at where I am in the menu system. So that's kind of a nice add or difference there. Other than that, it's pretty much conceptually the same type of interface and layout. You just might have the buttons in a different space just because of the layout they had to put it in. Next thing I want to show you about the Fender is the inside here, and we're going to open up these panels. With the Fender, you get a key for all the side things, and you do as well for the Mira. But one difference is you have a pass-through on the Fender Nova series. I'm not going to take this off, but you can take this off, and then you can close your hood, and then you could have material sticking out if you had larger pieces than what was the bed size. So this is your pass-through. It's vented right now, but you can take this piece off and have large items stick out. What I want to show you is how you get into the underneath system. And why you want to get in here is the same as why you would want to get on it. On the Mira is if you want to clean this out. One of the nice things about the Fender is that it's got trays that actually come out, so you can take all of the inner systems out and go clean them. Whereas with the bed of the Aeon, you really have to clean within it. So this has 2 trays that come out and kind of flow out, and I like this concept. And one of the reasons why is not only for cleaning, but also let's say you're working on something that it's a smaller cut and it has the eyes for a name. You know how you always lose those little bitty eyes and they fall down in bed with all the other little bits. You could clean this and push all these bits up, and then once you do that cut, that eye is most likely going to fall through this. These are the bigger honeycomb holes, and then you can easily go find that. It's kind of a silly thing, but once you go fishing for a lot of those, you'll realize it's a nice thing to do. Anyway, these roll out, and you can clean them pretty easy, and you can also take all these components out if you need to move this thing and take some of the weight off. To get this machine in this room, I had to take all the side panels, the hood, these off, the honeycomb, and really take a lot of the weight off so I could put it on its side. So it was nice to be able to have the easy hinges to take that off. And that's one thing I'll add. The hood and then the back tube, the hinges are very easy to get to, and they're just basic furniture hinges. There's no pick off a pin, get in here, and then undo that. This was very easy to take it off and put it back together again. One other feature that they've done here on this machine that's nice is the honeycomb. Let's see if I can. The honeycomb is actually pegs on it. So if I lift this off, I see the blades. But this honeycomb doesn't move around. So I can easily square up on this if I wanted to. So it's kind of nice. There's prongs. I'll try to lift it. You might be able to hear it. There's actually little prong feet that have seats nice feature, just a small special add that's a little bit different, so that doesn't slide around. Now let's look over at the right side of the Thunder. So if we look up on the control panel, we kind of already looked at the rear control panel, but there's this emergency button here. So if you ever get into a jam or a problem, you can easily hit that. If we look in the back, we have this light. Excuse my reindeer, I haven't taken her off yet. But anyway, when your job is running, it'll be red, and then when it finishes, it'll switch back to the green. So that's kind of nice. If we look down here, where the power on and off are located, it's a little bit different design mechanism than we had over on the Mira. And I'm going to go into some features that I like about it. If I've got a long day of lasering, and I've got some designs, my design studio's upstairs, and maybe I have some downtime of 30 minutes or something, I can actually turn the main switch on, which turns the light in the bed and the gantry. But I don't have to turn the laser and all of the air component and the chiller on. That's a different switch. So I'm going to turn that on, and you can hear how it'll give me an alarm, and then you can hear the water chiller fire up. It's kind of nice in that if I don't want to have the laser on long term, because it is eating, you know, man hours, right, of usage, I can just keep the laser switch off, and those other components aren't running. But if I wanted to get in the bed, maybe do some maintenance, some cleaning, or just aligning things, I can still have the lights and be able to move the gantry. If we look down the list here, we have our Ethernet connection, which I don't think we had one over there. Then we have the USB stick, and then we have the PC stick. This is basically USB. Again, I like running USB. You can hear the fan that kicked on over there, the auxiliary fan. Anyway, I like running USB as opposed to Wi-Fi. I'm absolutely sure this thing has Wi-Fi as well. I just am not a big fan of running Wi-Fi on jobs like this. Okay, the next component or feature we're going to look at is the air assist control that comes on the Fender Nova series. So most of you have probably read that people, obviously need an air compressor to run these lasers. The Mira 9 comes with one that's integrated for these Nova series, and then also for the Nova series for Aeon, you need an additional air compressor. And so that line comes in, but what you're seeing here is there's software that we use to run our jobs, Lightburn. It's able to detect and can be able to control when I'm doing a cut or an engraved job. So the nice thing about this feature here is I can control how much air is going through my laser head or my laser nozzle by up here. There's a secondary control, so I have a regulator valve, and then this allows me to control how much in addition will go. So if I have on my Lightburn that I'm going to do a cut, it'll push through a higher PSI amount of air. If I have an engraved job, it'll push through a much lower. And then if I don't like how much is going, I can adjust either one. So if I do a test here, you're going to hear it push air through that nozzle. So I can easily lower that amount. You can hear the difference. So why is that nice? Because what if I'm running a cut job and I'm not seeing it cut through as well, or it's really cutting and blowing too much? I can easily control that through here, which is nice. So again, we have a high volume and a low volume. See what a difference that is? And then there's a secondary through here which allows me where I can control the max limits for that. So this is a nice feature. The way I control it on the other machine is just through that on-off button and by opening that valve more or less. One of the things that we talked about in the beginning of this segment was the difference between these two machines, and one of them was really considered a desktop, and this one is not. And I want to show you why they're different, right? So this one has an external component. This is your chiller, whereas the one on the Mira was integrated in the machine. So some people get kind of scared off by, oh my God, what is it like to have something setting on the side, and how much space does it take? Well, this is really what it looks like. So it's this is 22 by 11, and the height really doesn't matter. So it's really not taking up a whole bunch of space. I mean, if you have it, it doesn't make a big difference. If you're really trying to jam this thing in a small area, then it may be something that you need to think about, and you want to either go with a smaller machine or the desktop over there. But this is what the external chiller looks like. Kind of one benefit about this is if I have this machine for 5 years and they come out with a newer chiller or something more advanced, it's going to be easier to swap this thing out. Just like the other, you'll notice on mine I have that same coil in here with a piece of floss, and you put distilled water in here. I need to drain it. You have two connections in the back. One is the in and one's an out, and it connects to the back of the machine. And just the back of the machine connects to the back of the machine. It goes in on the left side, and then there's a separate power cord that goes in so that when I turn on that laser switch, that it powers this chiller on. And then you can see in the back there, that's my additional inline fan. I upgraded from the stock one that came with it. That's a AC inline fan. I think it's like an 8 horsepower. And then it has a remote on the other side so I can turn it on and off. So I hope you enjoyed the walk around and the walk inside of each of these machines. Again, they're conceptually two different machines, but also kind of one of the same. They have 3 mirrors and a lens, but they differ in that each one of them has different features or maybe some upgrades to the design, one over the other. And I think that's really what most people have been asking me to kind of show and demonstrate. So I hope that this video for walking into each different machine has kind of given you a visual representation of maybe something you haven't seen out there yet on the internet. Most people will show you how a cut job looks or what it looks like to do an engrave on one of these, or you might see sales and marketing material. But I really wanted to show you kind of the ins and outs of each machine. Again, this is a desktop version that you can put on a cart. You can buy the cart or you can build one. This is a non-desktop version that comes with the cart embedded, and just 2 different machines, so it really just depends on kind of what you're looking for. I hope this video was informative and helpful, and see you around the internet.